Most people think power comes from speaking louder, arguing harder, or proving everyone wrong. They're mistaken. The greatest victories are often won without a single word. Every time you rush to explain yourself, defend your actions, or react emotionally, you hand other people control over your mind. But the moment you master silence, everything changes. Silence creates mystery. It builds respect. It makes people question you, remember you, and even fear what you might be thinking. The most influential people in history understood one truth: the less they revealed, the more powerful they became. In this video, you'll discover why silence is not weakness, it's psychological warfare. You'll learn how quiet confidence commands respect, why emotional control unsettles manipulative people, and how saying less can make your presence impossible to ignore. Once you understand the hidden psychology behind silence, you'll never feel the need to chase validation, win pointless arguments, or explain your every move again. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you deal with disrespect, betrayal, and power. Those who cannot control their words become predictable. Those who master silence become unforgettable, and that's exactly what makes silence the most dangerous weapon you'll ever use. Look around you for a moment, and you'll notice something fascinating. Most people have an irresistible urge to speak. They explain themselves before anyone asks. They reveal their plans long before those plans become reality. They rush to defend their reputation, justify their choices, and convince others that they deserve respect. They believe the more they say, the stronger they appear. But the truth is almost always the opposite. Every unnecessary word is a piece of yourself handed over to someone else. Every explanation gives people another clue about your fears, your desires, your expectations, and your emotional triggers. Before long, they know exactly how to influence you, how to distract you, and how to pull you away from your purpose. Real power begins the moment you become comfortable with leaving questions unanswered. That sounds uncomfortable because we are taught from childhood that silence is awkward, that we must fill every pause, keep every conversation alive, and always make people understand us. But the world does not reward the person who reveals everything. It rewards the person who understands the value of restraint. Think about the individuals who naturally command attention the instant they enter a room. Often, they are not the loudest voices. They are not competing to dominate every conversation. Instead, they observe. They listen. They allow others to expose themselves while they quietly gather information. Their silence creates a strange tension. People begin wondering what they are thinking. They become curious. They pay closer attention whenever that person finally decides to speak. This is one of the oldest psychological principles of influence. Human beings are uncomfortable with uncertainty. We desperately want to solve mysteries. When someone constantly explains themselves, there is nothing left to discover. Everything is already on the table. But when someone reveals only what is necessary, the mind naturally fills in the blanks. Curiosity grows. Attention follows. Respect often grows with it. There is another reason silence is so valuable. Every conversation is an exchange of information, and information is power. Most people treat information carelessly. They casually reveal their ambitions, frustrations, financial goals, relationships, and future plans to anyone willing to listen. They mistake openness for wisdom, but not everyone listening wants you to succeed. Some people quietly measure your weaknesses. Others compare themselves to you. Some will discourage your dreams simply because your ambition reminds them of their own fears. The more you reveal, the easier you become to predict. And the easier you are to predict, the easier you are to control. Instead, imagine moving differently. Imagine allowing your actions to speak before your words ever do. Let people wonder what you're building instead of announcing every step. Let your results answer questions that your mouth never needs to address. There is incredible freedom in realizing that you owe very few explanations. You don't have to convince everyone that you're improving. You don't have to advertise every victory. Quiet progress has a unique advantage. It cannot be sabotaged nearly as easily as loudly declared intentions. Notice how often people talk themselves into trouble. A single emotional reaction damages relationships. One careless sentence destroys years of trust. An unnecessary argument creates enemies that never needed to exist. Many of life's greatest regrets begin with words spoken too quickly. Silence, on the other hand, gives you space. It gives you time to think instead of react. It allows emotion to settle before judgment takes over. In that brief pause, you protect not only your reputation, but also your future. Do not misunderstand this principle. Silence is not fear. It is not insecurity. It is not weakness disguised as patience. True silence comes from confidence. It comes from knowing that your value does not depend on constant recognition. It comes from understanding that your life is too important to be spent seeking approval from people who have done nothing to earn your trust. The strongest person in the room rarely feels the need to prove they are strong. Their confidence is rooted in certainty, not performance. As you begin practicing this discipline, you'll notice something remarkable. People will speak more around you. They will reveal their intentions without realizing it. They will underestimate you because they mistake quietness for ignorance. Let them. Underestimation is often one of the greatest advantages you can possess. While others are busy performing, you are learning. While they chase attention, you are building substance. While they expose every move, you remain free to choose yours without interference. Remember this, every unnecessary word costs you a little power, but every purposeful silence strengthens your position. Master that discipline, and you've already begun to master the game. Once you begin speaking less and revealing only what truly matters, you'll notice a shift that is even more powerful than mystery. You become far more difficult to manipulate. This is where silence stops being merely a habit and becomes a psychological shield. Most people assume manipulation is built on clever words, persuasive arguments, or deception. In reality, it begins with your emotional reactions. The moment someone discovers what upsets you, what makes you defensive, or what instantly provokes you, they have found a handle they can use to control your behavior. Think about how often people try to pull you into emotional battles. It happens every day. Someone questions your abilities. Someone insults your character. Someone ignores your effort or criticizes your decisions. Instinct tells you to respond immediately. You want to defend yourself, prove them wrong, or win the argument before anyone else believes their version of the story. That impulse feels natural, but it is also exactly what many people are counting on. The person who can control your emotions can often control your decisions. They don't need to overpower you physically or intellectually. They only need to provoke you into abandoning your self-control. Once anger takes over, your judgment begins to disappear. You say things you never intended to say. You reveal thoughts that should have remained private. You make decisions based on pride rather than purpose. In that moment, you are no longer leading the situation. You are reacting to it. Silence interrupts that entire process. When you refuse to respond immediately, you create distance between emotion and action. That brief pause may last only a few seconds, but it changes everything. Instead of becoming a prisoner of the moment, you become an observer of it. You begin asking yourself different questions. Why is this person trying to provoke me? What do they gain if I lose my composure? Is this battle even worth fighting? Those questions rarely appear when emotions are running the show. They appear only when silence gives your mind room to think. One of the greatest advantages you can develop is becoming emotionally unreadable. That doesn't mean becoming cold or heartless. It means refusing to let every emotion appear on your face or spill from your mouth. Many people advertise exactly what they're feeling the instant something happens. Their frustration, excitement, jealousy, fear, and insecurity become visible to everyone around them. They believe honesty requires immediate expression, but wisdom understands that not every emotion deserves an audience. There will always be people who test your patience simply to measure your limits. They want to see how easily they can disturb your peace. Some do it out of insecurity. Others do it for entertainment. A few do it because they recognize that emotionally stable people are difficult to influence. The moment you react exactly as they expected, you've confirmed that they know how to reach you. Now imagine giving them nothing, no angry speech, no desperate explanation, no emotional outburst, just calm attention. The silence becomes uncomfortable, not for you, but for them. Suddenly they begin questioning themselves. They wonder whether their words had any effect at all. Often they keep talking, trying harder to provoke a reaction, revealing more about their own frustration than yours. In their attempt to control you, they lose control of themselves. This is one of the quiet paradoxes of human psychology. People often expose their own weaknesses while trying to uncover yours. They become impatient, defensive, aggressive, or insecure. They reveal exactly how much they need your reaction to feel powerful. By remaining composed, you force them to confront themselves instead of controlling you. Of course, this discipline isn't easy. Silence under pressure demands practice. Your ego will constantly whisper that you must respond immediately. It will convince you that every insult requires an answer, every accusation deserves a defense, and every misunderstanding must be corrected. But maturity teaches a different lesson. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every critic deserves your energy. Some battles are won the moment you refuse to fight them. Remember, your emotional energy is one of your most valuable resources. Spend it carelessly, and you'll constantly feel exhausted by conflicts that never deserved your involvement. Guard it wisely, and you'll discover a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by every passing opinion. This kind of self-control doesn't just protect your peace. It transforms your presence. People begin to recognize that you cannot be manipulated through anger, fear, or pressure. They realize they must approach you differently because the old methods no longer work. And once people realize they cannot control your emotions, they unknowingly surrender one of the greatest forms of power they ever held over you. That is the moment silence stops being a response and becomes your greatest defense. Once you've learned to stop revealing everything about yourself and you've developed the discipline to resist emotional reactions, something remarkable begins to happen. Your silence no longer serves only as protection. It becomes a tool for discovery. Instead of constantly trying to make yourself understood, you begin understanding everyone else. And in life, that is one of the greatest advantages you can possess. Most people believe they understand human nature because they listen to what others say. But words are often the least reliable source of truth. People carefully choose their sentences. They rehearse their stories. They present the version of themselves they want the world to believe. Yet beneath those carefully constructed words lies another conversation taking place, one revealed through impatience, hesitation, body language, contradictions, and the things left unsaid. You cannot notice these details if you are busy filling every moment with your own voice. Silence transforms you into an observer. Think about any conversation you've ever had. The moment there is an uncomfortable pause, most people rush to fill it. They begin explaining more than necessary. They reveal private frustrations. They justify decisions that no one questioned. They confess fears they never intended to share. They believe they are controlling the conversation, but in reality, they are surrendering valuable information without realizing it. Human beings are uncomfortable with uncertainty. Silence creates uncertainty. We instinctively try to escape it by talking. The person who remains patient during those moments gains access to truths that endless questioning could never uncover. Imagine you're negotiating with someone. You present your offer, and instead of immediately explaining or defending it, you simply remain quiet. At first, the silence feels uncomfortable, but after a few moments, the other person often begins speaking. They start negotiating against themselves. They reveal what they truly want. They expose their concerns, their limits, and sometimes even their desperation. None of this happens because you forced them. It happens because silence quietly invited them to reveal themselves. The same principle applies far beyond negotiations. It works in friendships, relationships, business, and leadership. People constantly reveal their priorities through what they choose to discuss repeatedly. They expose their insecurities through the topics that trigger emotional reactions. They reveal hidden ambitions through casual remarks they assume no one notices. Most people miss these signals because they are too busy preparing their next sentence instead of listening. There is another lesson hidden here, one that separates wise people from impulsive ones. Every person you meet is carrying invisible motivations. Some are driven by fear, others by pride. Some crave admiration, others desperately seek validation. Many wear masks so convincing that even they begin believing their own performance. If you judge only their words, you will often be deceived. But if you patiently observe their actions over time, patterns begin to emerge. Actions rarely contradict the truth for long. This is why patience is such an underrated form of intelligence. The world encourages speed. It rewards quick opinions, immediate reactions, and instant conclusions. But human character cannot be understood in a hurry. People reveal themselves gradually, one decision at a time. The impatient person forms opinions based on appearances. The patient observer waits until behavior tells the complete story. Have you ever noticed how some individuals seem charming when you first meet them? They know exactly what to say. They appear confident, generous, and trustworthy. Yet months later, their true nature begins to surface. The charm fades. Small acts of selfishness become impossible to ignore. Broken promises begin to accumulate. Their behavior tells a completely different story than their words ever did. Had you relied only on conversation, you might have been fooled. But quiet observation would have shown you everything. The same principle applies to your own life. Every unnecessary opinion you express reduces your ability to observe objectively. Strong emotions narrow your vision. Constant talking distracts you from the details that matter. Silence creates distance between you and the emotional noise surrounding you. From that distance, your judgment becomes clearer. You begin seeing people as they truly are rather than as you hope they are. And here's the greatest advantage of all. When people underestimate you because you speak less, they become less guarded around you. They stop performing. They assume you're not paying attention. Meanwhile, you're collecting information they never intended to reveal. You understand their habits, their motivations, their fears, and their ambitions long before they realize you've been watching. By the time they understand the depth of your awareness, the game has already shifted in your favor. Remember, knowledge is rarely handed to those who constantly seek attention. It belongs to those who are willing to watch, to listen, and to wait. The quiet observer sees what the noisy crowd never will. The less you speak, the more people reveal, and the more they reveal, the stronger your position becomes. By now, you've seen how silence protects your emotions and reveals the true nature of other people. But there is another level to this discipline, one that very few ever master. Silence does more than help you observe the world. It changes the way the world sees you. When used with intention, silence becomes a force that creates respect, influence, and an unmistakable sense of authority. Think about the people whose presence immediately commands attention. It is rarely because they speak the most. In fact, the opposite is often true. They don't feel the need to comment on every situation or insert themselves into every conversation. They speak only when their words have purpose. Because of that, every sentence carries weight. People stop what they're doing and listen, not because they are loud, but because they have trained everyone around them to understand that their words are valuable. Now compare that to someone who talks constantly. At first, they may seem entertaining or charismatic, but over time people begin to tune them out. Their words lose impact because they are available all the time. When everything is important, nothing feels important. Scarcity creates value, and that principle applies just as much to words as it does to anything else in life. Silence creates that scarcity. When you resist the urge to explain every decision, defend every criticism, or announce every success, you introduce uncertainty. And uncertainty has a powerful psychological effect. People begin asking themselves questions. What are you thinking? Why didn't you react? What's your next move? They fill the empty space with their own assumptions. Ironically, they often imagine you to be far more capable, confident, and strategic than if you had tried to convince them with endless explanations. This is why powerful individuals rarely rush to answer criticism. They understand something that most people never learn. Not every attack deserves a response. Some accusations disappear on their own if you refuse to feed them. Some conflicts grow only because both sides insist on having the last word. By remaining silent, you deny the conflict the attention it needs to survive. This doesn't mean silence is always the answer. Timing matters. There are moments when speaking is essential, but the strongest responses are never driven by wounded pride. They come from careful calculation. They are deliberate, measured, and impossible to ignore because they arrive at exactly the right moment. Imagine a chess player who reveals every move before making it. That player would never win. The same is true in life. Every goal you announce, every strategy you explain, and every emotion you expose gives others the opportunity to interfere. Some will criticize your plans, others will compete with you. A few may even try to sabotage your progress. But when you quietly continue moving forward without seeking approval, you eliminate much of that interference. Your success arrives before anyone has time to stand in your way. There is another reason strategic silence creates influence. It makes you unpredictable. Human beings feel comfortable around patterns. They like knowing exactly how someone will react. If they know you always become angry when criticized, they can use criticism against you. If they know you always defend yourself, they know exactly how to pull you into unnecessary battles. Predictability is a weakness because it allows others to manipulate your behavior. Silence breaks that pattern. When people cannot predict your reaction, they become cautious. They hesitate. They think twice before provoking you because they are no longer certain of the outcome. That uncertainty shifts the psychological balance in your favor. Suddenly, you are the one controlling the rhythm of the interaction. You'll also notice something interesting as you develop this habit. The need to impress people begins to disappear. You no longer feel compelled to prove your intelligence in every discussion. You don't chase recognition for every achievement. You stop measuring your worth by the number of people who applaud you. Instead, your confidence becomes internal. It is built on discipline rather than attention. And discipline has a quiet strength that performance can never imitate. The world is full of people competing to be noticed. They speak louder, post more, argue harder, and demand constant validation. Yet the truly influential person understands that attention and respect are not the same thing. Attention is easy to attract. Respect must be earned. Silence helps you earn it because it reflects self-control, patience, and confidence. Qualities that cannot be faked for long. As your words become fewer, they become stronger. As your reactions become rarer, they become more meaningful. As your silence becomes intentional, your presence becomes unforgettable. People may forget those who constantly fought for attention, but they rarely forget the individual whose calm confidence made every moment feel significant. Never waste your words trying to prove your power. Let your silence make them wonder, and let your actions provide the answer. As we've discovered, silence can protect you from manipulation, reveal the true nature of others, and quietly increase your influence. But none of those benefits are the greatest reward. The deepest transformation happens where no one else can see it. It happens within you. In the end, silence is not about controlling other people. It is about mastering yourself. And the person who masters themselves has already won the most important battle they will ever fight. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control circumstances they cannot control. They try to change other people's opinions, force respect, earn everyone's approval, and prevent criticism at all costs. It is an exhausting way to live because you are placing your peace of mind in the hands of strangers. The more you seek control over what others think, the less control you have over yourself. Silence changes that relationship completely. When you stop feeling obligated to answer every accusation, defend every decision, or respond to every opinion, you begin reclaiming something incredibly valuable: your emotional independence. You no longer wake up wondering who approves of you today. You no longer lose sleep because someone misunderstood your intentions. Instead, your attention shifts inward. You become less concerned with managing your image and more committed to managing your character. That is where real confidence begins. Many people confuse confidence with bold words, dramatic gestures, or constant displays of certainty. But genuine confidence is much quieter than that. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't collapse the moment someone disagrees with it. True confidence is the calm certainty that your values, your discipline, and your purpose remain intact even when the world misunderstands you. Think about how much energy people waste trying to win arguments that don't matter. Social media has made this habit even worse. Every disagreement feels like a battle that must be won. Every criticism feels like an attack on identity. Every opposing opinion demands an immediate response. But ask yourself this question: how many of those arguments actually changed anyone's mind? Very few. Most of them only created frustration, resentment, and distraction. Meanwhile, the people making real progress were too busy building their lives to argue about them. They understood a lesson that takes many years to learn. Your future is shaped more by your daily discipline than by your ability to win debates. Silence protects that discipline. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, you strengthen something inside yourself. You prove that your emotions serve your judgment rather than control it. At first, this feels difficult. Your pride will demand a response. Your ego will whisper that staying silent makes you appear weak. But if you remain patient, you'll discover something remarkable. The urge to react begins to lose its power over you. What once felt impossible becomes natural. That is how inner strength is built, not through dramatic moments, but through thousands of quiet decisions that nobody else notices. There is another gift hidden within silence: clarity. The modern world is incredibly noisy. Opinions compete for your attention every second. Notifications interrupt your thoughts. Endless conversations, arguments, and distractions pull your focus in every direction. If you constantly absorb that noise, you eventually lose the ability to hear your own mind. Silence restores that connection. It creates space to reflect before acting. It allows you to question your motives instead of blindly following your impulses. It helps you separate temporary emotions from lasting truths. Many of life's greatest mistakes happen because people move too quickly. They confuse urgency with importance. They act before thinking, speak before understanding, and regret what cannot be taken back. Silence interrupts that cycle. It gives wisdom enough time to catch up with emotion. As you continue practicing this discipline, you'll notice another subtle change. You stop needing recognition for every achievement. You stop announcing every goal before you've earned it. You become comfortable letting your work speak on your behalf. There is tremendous freedom in knowing that your value doesn't increase because people notice you. Your value increases because you continue improving whether anyone is watching or not. This is the mindset of truly powerful individuals. They don't measure success by applause. They measure it by progress. They don't seek validation through attention. They seek fulfillment through mastery. Their silence is not empty. It is filled with purpose, patience, and unwavering self-control. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: every challenge you face is first a test of your inner world. Before you can lead others, you must lead yourself. Before you can influence another mind, you must command your own. Before you can become respected by the world, you must become disciplined in private. That is why silence is far more than the absence of words. It is evidence that you no longer allow every emotion to dictate your behavior. It is proof that your confidence comes from within instead of from the approval of others. It is the quiet foundation upon which lasting strength is built.